There is a fruit that is 300 times sweeter than sugar. Not twice as sweet, not 10 times, 300 times. One fruit contains the sweetness of 300 sugar cubes. One vine produces enough sweetness to replace all the sugar your family uses in a year. One backyard plant eliminates your sugar purchases forever. This fruit has 0 calories. Not low calories, 0. You can eat sweetness without consuming energy. Your body processes it as if you ate nothing at all. This fruit has 0 glycemic impact. It does not spike blood sugar. It does not trigger insulin. Diabetics can consume it freely. It passes through the body unchanged, leaving only sweetness behind. This fruit has been used for 800 years by people who lived longer than anyone else on Earth. The region where it grows has produced more centenarians per capita than anywhere else in recorded history. The people who consumed this fruit daily lived past 100, while their neighbors aged and died. Scientists who studied them could not explain their longevity until they examined their diet. The secret was in the fruit. This fruit is not synthetic. It is not manufactured in laboratories. It is not processed with chemicals or modified with genes. It grows on a vine that climbs trellises and covers arbors, a vine that produces fruit year after year for decades, a vine that you could grow in your backyard. And somehow, in a world where diabetes affects 500 million people, where obesity has become an epidemic, where sugar is killing more humans than any other food ingredient, almost no one knows this fruit exists. The sugar industry knows. They have spent a century making sure you do not. Today, we are opening the file on the sweetener that makes sugar obsolete. The fruit that is 300 times sweeter with 0 consequences. The vine that could grow in your garden and replace everything in your pantry that is slowly killing you. And the $100 billion industry that has buried this knowledge for generations. If this matters to you, subscribe and hit the bell. The file is open. In 1938, a National Geographic expedition reached a remote valley in southern China. The expedition was searching for new plant species in the Guangxi Mountains, a region so isolated that many villages had never seen Western visitors. The expedition leader was a botanist named G. Weidmann Groff. He had spent 20 years collecting plants in China. He thought he had seen everything the region could offer. He was wrong. In a village called Longzheng, the expedition encountered monks who appeared impossibly old. Their faces were weathered, their movements slow, but their eyes were clear and their minds sharp. Groff asked their ages. The answers stunned him. One monk claimed to be 112, another claimed 106, a third claimed 98. In an era when American life expectancy was 58 years, these monks were living nearly twice as long. Groff asked their secret. The monks brought him a small round fruit, greenish-brown and unremarkable in appearance. They called it Luo Han Guo, the monk fruit, named for the Buddhist monks who had cultivated it for centuries. They explained that they consumed it daily, in tea and soups. As a remedy for coughs and longevity, they believed it was the reason for their long lives. Groff was skeptical. He was a scientist. He did not believe in miracle fruits. Then he tasted it. The sweetness was overwhelming, more intense than any fruit he had ever encountered, more concentrated than honey or sugarcane. A sweetness that seemed almost artificial in its intensity, yet came from a simple vine fruit. He brought specimens back for analysis. What scientists discovered would not be fully understood for another 50 years. The monk fruit contained compounds called magrosides. Magrosides are glycosides, molecules that taste sweet but are not metabolized as sugar. The body's taste receptors recognize them as sweet. The body's digestive system does not recognize them as food. You taste sweetness. You consume nothing. The primary compound, mogroside V, is 250 to 300 times sweeter than sucrose. A tiny amount produces intense sweetness. A single fruit contains enough mogroside V to sweeten gallons of liquid. But mogrosides do more than taste sweet. In 1996, researchers at the Guangxi Institute of Botany conducted the first rigorous study of mogroside properties. They documented effects that went far beyond sweetness. Magrosides demonstrated antioxidant activity, neutralizing free radicals that damage cells and accelerate aging. Mogrosides demonstrated anti-inflammatory effects, reducing markers of chronic inflammation linked to heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. Mogrosides demonstrated anti-cancer properties in laboratory studies, inhibiting tumor growth in cell cultures. The monks who lived to 112 were not just avoiding sugar. They were consuming compounds that actively protected their bodies from age-related damage. The study was published in Chinese scientific journals. It was ignored by Western medicine. In 2009, researchers in Japan confirmed and extended these findings. They documented that glycosides protected pancreatic beta cells, the cells that produce insulin, in diabetic animal models. Glycoside consumption preserved beta cell function. This was significant. Type 2 diabetes destroys beta cells over time. Protecting them could slow or halt disease progression, a sweetener that protected the cells that diabetes destroys. The study was published. It was ignored. In 2011, researchers at the Pennington Biomedical Research Center in Louisiana conducted the first American clinical trial of monk fruit sweetener. They gave monk fruit extract to human subjects and measured blood sugar response. The results were unambiguous. Monk fruit consumption produced no change in blood glucose, no change in insulin levels, no change in any metabolic marker. The subjects tasted sweetness. Their bodies registered nothing. Dr. Eric Ravusin, the lead researcher, called the results remarkable. A sweetener with zero metabolic impact that tasted genuinely sweet, not bitter or artificial like many alternatives. The study was published. The FDA had already approved monk fruit as safe. Everything was in place for monk fruit to revolutionize the sweetener market. It did not happen. The sugar industry generates approximately $100 billion per year globally. This includes raw sugar production, sugar refining, sugar trading, and the food manufacturing that depends on cheap sugar. It includes soft drink companies, candy manufacturers, baked goods producers, and thousands of other businesses built on sugar consumption. Sugar is not just an ingredient, it is an industry. An industry with lobbying power, political connections, and a century of experience suppressing competition. The industry has a history of suppression that documents reveal. In 2016, researchers at the University of California, San Francisco uncovered documents showing that the sugar industry had paid scientists to downplay the link between sugar and heart disease in the 1960s. The Sugar Research Foundation, a trade group, had funded studies that blamed fat for heart disease while exonerating sugar. The scientists who conducted these studies did not disclose their funding. Their fraudulent conclusions shaped dietary guidelines for 50 years. The documents revealed that the industry knew sugar was harmful. They paid to hide this knowledge. They shaped public health policy to protect their product. This is the industry that encountered monk fruit, a sweetener with 0 calories, 0 glycemic impact, and potential health benefits. A sweetener that could replace sugar in every application. A sweetener that threatened $100 billion in annual revenue. The industry response was predictable. They did not fund monk fruit research. They did not promote monk fruit awareness. They did not invest in monk fruit cultivation. They did fund research on artificial sweeteners that came with health concerns. They did promote sweeteners that could be manufactured and controlled. They did ensure that monk fruit remained obscure. The FDA approved monk fruit as safe in 2010. By then, artificial sweeteners had dominated the alternative sweetener market for decades. Aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin were household names. Monk fruit was unknown. The approval did not come with promotion. No advertising campaigns, no dietary guideline changes, no public health recommendations. The sweetener that could help 500 million diabetics remained invisible. The invisibility was maintained through supply control. Monk fruit grows only in a small region of southern China. The Guangxi Mountains provide the specific conditions the vine requires: subtropical climate, high humidity, misty mornings, well-drained limestone soil. For centuries, the Chinese government restricted monk fruit cultivation to this region. Export was limited. The fruit was considered a national treasure, too valuable to share freely. When Western companies finally gained access, they faced another obstacle. Fresh monk fruit spoils within days of harvest. The fruit cannot be shipped internationally. It must be processed into extract before export. Processing requires infrastructure. Infrastructure requires investment. Investment in a product that competed with sugar was not forthcoming from companies that profited from sugar. The supply chain remained constrained. Prices remained high. Monk fruit sweetener, when available, cost 10 to 20 times more than sugar. This price difference was artificial. The vines that produce monk fruit are perennial plant once, harvest for 20 years. No annual planting, no expensive inputs. The production cost of monk fruit is actually lower than sugar when infrastructure exists. But infrastructure did not exist. Investment did not flow. The price remained high because the supply remained limited, because the investment remained absent. A self-fulfilling prophecy of obscurity maintained by the industries that benefited from sugar dominance. The situation began changing in 2015. That year, a company called Monk Fruit Corp established the first large-scale monk fruit cultivation outside China, in New Zealand. Other companies followed in Thailand and Indonesia. Suddenly, supply was not controlled by a single government. Prices began falling. Availability began increasing. The sugar industry noticed. Coca-Cola launched Coca-Cola Life, sweetened partly with stevia and monk fruit. The product was positioned as natural and low-calorie. It was also limited in distribution and weakly marketed, almost as if the company that sold sugar water did not want a sugar alternative to succeed. Food manufacturers began quietly adding monk fruit to products. Naturally sweetened appeared on labels. But the monk fruit was often buried in ingredient lists, hidden among other components, never featured prominently. The industry was hedging, acknowledging that consumers wanted alternatives, never promoting alternatives strongly enough to threaten core sugar products. This half-hearted adoption continues today. Walk through a grocery store. Count the products that feature monk fruit prominently. Compared to the products that feature sugar, the ratio reveals priorities. The sugar industry has not surrendered. They have made minimal concessions while maintaining dominance. Monk fruit remains expensive relative to sugar. Monk fruit remains obscure relative to artificial sweeteners. Monk fruit remains hidden relative to its potential. The hiding is deliberate. Growing monk fruit is possible far beyond southern China. The vine requires specific conditions, but those conditions exist in many locations. Subtropical climate with no frost, high humidity, warm days, and cool nights, well-drained soil. This describes Florida. This describes Hawaii. This describes southern Texas and coastal California. This describes Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. The vine that was supposedly restricted to one Chinese valley can grow wherever citrus grows. Millions of acres worldwide could produce monk fruit. The limitation was never botanical. It was political and economic. Chinese farmers had monopoly incentive to restrict cultivation. Western companies had profit incentive to sell patented artificial sweeteners rather than natural fruits. The combination kept monk fruit rare, but seeds escape. Vines propagate. Knowledge spreads despite suppression. Today, monk fruit seeds and plants are available from specialty nurseries. Home gardeners in appropriate climates can grow their own supply. The monopoly that protected sugar is cracking. Growing monk fruit requires patience but not expertise. Obtain seeds or seedlings from specialty suppliers. Seeds are viable but slow to germinate. Seedlings establish faster. Plant in rich, well-drained soil. The vine tolerates various soil types but performs best in loamy soil with high organic matter. Provide a trellis or support structure. Monk fruit is a vigorous climber, reaching 15 feet or more. It needs something to climb. Ensure warm temperatures. The vine tolerates temperatures down to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit but does not survive frost. Greenhouse cultivation extends the growing range into cooler climates. Maintain high humidity. Mist the plants regularly in dry climates. Mulch heavily to retain soil moisture. Wait, the vine flowers in spring and produces fruit by fall. First harvest typically comes in the second or third year. Harvest when fruits turn brownish-green and give slightly when pressed. Overripe fruit loses some mogricide content. Processing the fruit requires drying. Traditional methods involve slow drying over several days. The fruit is not eaten fresh, as the fresh fruit is not palatable. Drying concentrates the mogricides and removes bitter compounds. Modern home processing can use a food dehydrator, slice the fruit, and dry until completely desiccated. The dried fruit can be stored indefinitely. To extract sweetener, simmer dried fruit in water. The mogricides dissolve into the liquid. Strain and reduce the liquid to concentrate sweetness. The resulting extract can be used in any application that calls for liquid sweetener. Baking requires adjustment, as sugar provides bulk that monk fruit extract does not. A single vine produces 20 to 40 fruits per year at maturity. Each fruit contains enough sweetness to replace a pound of sugar. One vine replaces your family's entire sugar consumption. The comparison to sugar is damning. Sugar provides sweetness plus calories, 4 calories per gram, empty calories with no nutritional value. Energy that, if not burned, converts to fat. Sugar spikes blood glucose. The body responds with insulin. Repeated spikes lead to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance leads to type 2 diabetes. Diabetes leads to blindness, amputation, kidney failure, and death. Sugar feeds cancer. Tumor cells consume glucose at rates far exceeding normal cells. High sugar diets are associated with increased cancer risk. Sugar damages arteries. It contributes to atherosclerosis, heart disease, and stroke. The fraud that blamed fat protected sugar while sugar was killing people. Sugar is addictive. It activates reward pathways in the brain, similar to cocaine. People who try to quit experience withdrawal. The food industry exploits this addiction deliberately. Sugar is in everything. Read labels. Bread contains sugar. Pasta sauce contains sugar. Salad dressing contains sugar. Products that should not be sweet are sweetened to increase consumption and addiction. The average American consumes 77 grams of sugar per day, more than triple the recommended maximum. Consumed because the food industry profits from addiction. Monk fruit provides sweetness without any of these consequences. 0 calories, 0 glucose spike, 0 insulin response, 0 cancer feeding, 0 artery damage, 0 addiction. The same sweetness, none of the harm. The only reason to choose sugar over monk fruit is not knowing monk fruit exists. The industry ensures you do not know. The monks who discovered this fruit understood something we have forgotten. Sweetness does not require suffering. Pleasure does not require payment. The fruit that tastes like indulgence can be the fruit that protects your body. They lived past 100 in an era when 50 was old. They consumed sweetness daily without diabetes, without obesity, without the diseases that modern sweetener consumption creates. Their secret was not denial. They did not refuse sweetness. They found sweetness without cost. The vine that gave them that sweetness still grows in the Guangxi Mountains. It has been shared across Southern Asia. 800 years of human experience with this fruit. 800 years of longevity and health. 800 years of proof that sweetness can heal instead of harm. The sugar industry offers you addiction, disease, and early death. The monk fruit vine offers you sweetness, health, and freedom. One grows on plantations controlled by corporations. The other could grow on a trellis in your backyard. One makes billions for shareholders. The other makes nothing for anyone except the person who grows it. One is in every product on every shelf. The other is hidden in specialty stores and obscure nurseries. The asymmetry reveals priorities. The system is designed to profit from your sugar consumption, not to provide you with healthy alternatives. But systems can be circumvented. One vine, one trellis, one season of patience. Then sweetness forever. Sweetness without calories, sweetness without disease, sweetness that protects instead of destroys. The monks who named this fruit understood what it offered. They dedicated their lives to cultivation and preservation. They passed it down through generations because it was worth preserving. Their gift waits for you, not in the store where sugar dominates, not in the industry where profits determine availability, not in the system designed to keep you dependent. Growing on a vine, producing fruit for decades, sweeter than anything the sugar industry sells. 300 times sweeter, 0 times harmful. The fruit they hid for a century in your garden, it hides from no one. If this video helped you, subscribe and hit the bell. Every share exposes what they sweetened away. The next video opens soon.